Konnichiwa everyone, Nico here, and today we're doing reaction videos. It's something new on this channel. Okay, the first video I'm going to be watching is Switched Bags Scary Story Time. Something scary? Snarled. This video, I don't own it or anything. I just love Sapphire.
Hey Oddings, it's your Ate Sapphire. Before we get into today's episode, I wanted to really quickly tell you about one of our sponsors who, without them... Hey Oddings, it's your Ate Sapphire. Before we get into today's episode, I wanted to really quickly tell you about one of our sponsors who, without them, the show would not be possible. Did you know that fear has a distinct smell? Don't let the monsters get you. Mask your fear with great designer fragrances without breaking the bank. Scentbird is a luxury fragrance subscription. Go from Calvin Klein, Kate Spade, to Dolce & Gabbana. If you want to buy some perfumes to try, you can take...
The following is based on a submission from Venus. I was in college and on my way home from a short solo weekend trip. I lived in a dorm on campus, but with the number of times my mom would call or text me, it felt like I never moved out at all. The entire trip, she constantly texted me for updates to make sure I was okay. She'd also send me news articles about the bad things that have happened to women while traveling alone. Sometimes I just flat out ignored her. I didn't like feeling suffocated. While I was packing, I realized I didn't have enough room in my suitcase to fit all the souvenirs and presents I bought. So before heading to the bus station, I purchased a new burgundy suitcase to fill with the excess items. After I arrived at my destination and gathered my bags, I went outside to call a taxi, ignoring a call from my mom as I did so. It was a weekend evening and super crowded. I kept bumping into other people also waiting for their car. There were a couple times when I was almost completely shoved to the ground. It was super annoying. I finally got a car and headed home. As I dragged my bags up the stairs, I felt weak. I didn't remember the bags being that heavy, but I figured I was probably just exhausted from traveling. I went to open my new suitcase so I could sort out the gifts, but there was a lock I didn't recognize. I sighed in frustration. Of course I grabbed the wrong bag, probably when I was in that crowd. I remember feeling extra annoyed knowing that I hadn't put a lock on my bag. I was never seeing those gifts again. I kept looking all over for any sign of identification when I felt the bag move. I stepped back. Pretty sure I just imagined that. I nudged the bag with my foot, and the suitcase moved again. Then I heard what sounded like a muffled voice crying in pain. It sounded human. I grabbed my hammer and started hacking at the lock, desperately trying to break it open. After a couple of tries, I was successful. I unzipped the bag. Inside was a young girl, her limbs bound and her mouth covered. She was scrawny and pale. I untied her and gave her water and asked her how she got in there, but she was much too weak to speak. I pulled out my phone to call the police, but before I could, I was receiving a call. I almost swiped to ignore it, thinking it was my mom, but it was an unknown number. I had put my information on the luggage tag of my suitcase, so I figured that whoever was calling might have been whoever put this girl in the bag. Hello? I believe you have my bag, Venus. Shit, he knows my name. Yeah, I must have grabbed the wrong one. Let's meet at the playground on Mason Street and switch. I started panicking. What the hell was I supposed to do? I decided to call my uncle, who was a police officer. After I explained the situation to him, he came up with a plan. We were first going to take the girl to the nearest hospital, and then he was going to escort me to the meeting spot. Before we left, I stuffed the suitcase with stones to make it look heavy. Then, I slipped a stone in my pocket, just in case. We got to the playground a little earlier than the agreed upon meeting time. My uncle hid in some bushes, never taking his sight off of me. A black car pulled up. Out stepped a very tall, ugly man, wearing a lot of layers. He stopped a few feet in front of me and rolled my bag towards me. Then he gestured for me to do the same. Of course, it didn't roll that far because of the weight. So the man took a couple steps towards me. I went to collect my bag, and when I was near him, he grabbed my wrist. The lock, it's missing. My heart was racing. He knew. He knew that I knew what was in his suitcase. What was he gonna do with me? My adrenaline was coursing through me. He gripped my wrist tighter and pulled me closer. You look young. How old did you say you were? I quickly pulled out the stone from my pocket and threw it at the man's head. He let go of me and screamed in pain. I grabbed my bag and ran towards the other end of the playground. Behind me, I could hear my uncle emerge from the bush and order the man to put his hands up. And then I blacked out. I woke up in the hospital. My uncle was there and told me that the man had been arrested. He had been part of a huge trafficking ring that smuggled children through low-security bus stations. I asked if the girl was going to be okay. Although she was making a swift physical recovery, it would take a much longer time for her to heal from the trauma. That girl was so young. I thought about the obsessive texts and calls from my mom and no longer thought she was crazy. I'm lucky. That girl could have been me. Human trafficking is a real and horrifying global problem. You can visit polarisproject.org to learn how to spot a victim and other ways you can take action. So, living in Los Angeles, it's really useful to know Spanish.
Hey, welcome to my live chat. Let's start with some questions. Ooh, gold mask.
Oh, that always makes me think of Leo and Stitch.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Still.
Oh, did you think I was actually gonna cut her hair? Because you're right.
You like Ghost Rider? She does like Ghost Rider. Oh my gosh.
Addison, did you use my chapstick? You didn't use it? Did you use my lipstick? No? Did you use my chapstick? No. Where were you supposed to be?
My hair. Brush your hair? No.
She's got her hooker shoes on.
You couldn't walk. You tried to walk and you couldn't do it.
Swipe, go, put it back in, twist.
Oh!
Teeth on your eyes. So how do you feel about it?
I feel lovely.
Would you like to see yourself?
Yes.
Look in the mirror.
Brenda is going to wipe her gloss off. She wants to try a different color later. So go ahead and take your gloss off.
Ah! Good one, Paula. Whatever. Yuck.
Thank you. Shake the head. Go for a third coat. Let us dry. Okay, big show it to you.
Okay. Okay, now walk. Run to me.
Oh!
Could I sign my phone? pretty, okay? You help me. That's mommy's new mascara. Okay. Look, I'm not. What? Okay, I'm gonna paint on. Okay, so I'm gonna show you a makeup tip. So right now, this is really like very natural makeup. So I'm gonna use golden button, and I'm gonna use
You can't watch me. Just went back to an Oddly Satisfying video by Oddly Satisfying that I didn't get to finish watching this morning on my way to school, so yeah. I'm gonna finish watching that, and they're honestly very peaceful and oddly satisfying. I'm now watching Butterfly Meditation in Overwatch SFM animation. I've seen this before. I just love it. The efforts for Kenji, the young swarm effectively swarming him. on his
Master.
face. That's the thing. I just,
Why's my son spending time at your house?
Probably something wrong with me. I don't want to hang out at Mars anymore.
She's great.
This is the most fun I've had in a long time.
Rated R.
I'm gonna be watching Top 10 Saddest TV Plot Twists by WatchMojo.com because I'm honestly fucking confused and intrigued.
We definitely didn't see these heartbreaks coming. Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 saddest TV plot twists. Before we begin,
No!
when con artists
Particularly
Mm.
small-minded men.
He's the mark.
piece of take admitted that.
Try to be conspicuous.
Hi, blind person here. This person would just scoot over. Would you mind, sir? Sir?
Also rated PG-13.
Publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. For this list, we're looking at unexpected turns in TV shows that left us devastated. To be on our list, the moment has to be a real plot twist and not just an unexpected death. Also, a spoiler alert is now in effect.
There is but one rule. Hunt or be hunted.
Number 10, the Ben reveal, Scrubs.
You have to forgive yourself for everything that went down the other day.
Scrubs is a show that perfectly walks the line between comedy and drama on a regular basis. But the season 3 episode My Screw Up certainly punched us in the gut with this twist. Played by Brendan Fraser, Ben is a former cancer patient who comes in for routine tests. Later, when a patient passes away in JD's care, Ben tries to persuade the upset Dr. Cox that it wasn't JD's fault. It turns out, however, that Ben was actually the patient who died, appearing only to Dr. Cox, who was unable to accept his friend's death. Number 9, Bartlett's Choice, The West Wing.
My getting killed would be bad enough, but that is not the nightmare scenario. The nightmare scenario, sweetheart, is you getting kidnapped.
In the very first season of The West Wing, President Bartlett describes to his youngest daughter Zoe exactly what it would be like if she let her guard down at a bar or party and got kidnapped. Several seasons later, his worst fear comes to pass, leaving him scrambling to figure out her kidnapper's motivations. While this storyline was shocking and stressful, the truly heartbreaking moment comes when we learn that Bartlett has invoked the 25th Amendment because he feels incapable of being both the President of the United States and a father.
You're relieved, Mr. President.
Number 8, The Earth Shocker, Battlestar Galactica.
But it seems to want us to find Earth with the Cylons.
There's no place like home, but home can change a lot. Battlestar Galactica follows the journey of human survivors from the 12 colonies of Kobol as they search for the 13th colony, otherwise known as Earth.
We have arrived at Earth.
Midway through the 4th season, they finally reach their destination, and the audience is just as shocked as the characters by what they find. Their ancient home has become just as much a nuclear wasteland as the planets they left behind, in a disheartening twist that casts a dark shadow over the direction humanity is heading. Number 7, The John Doe, Grey's Anatomy.
007.
The finale of the 5th season of Grey's Anatomy is a doozy, with several dramatic plot lines threatening the lives of core characters. The big surprise, though, happens when a man is brought into the hospital with severe injuries that are so bad he can't be identified. While Meredith is caring for him, he keeps trying to write something on her hand with his finger, but isn't strong enough to speak or hold a pen. Ultimately, she realizes that what he's writing is 007, the nickname that George received so many seasons earlier. Almost as soon as they realize they have one of their own to save, however, he dies on the table. Number 6, The Train, House of Cards.
Have you thought about what we discussed?
We saw in the first season of House of Cards just
It's a beautiful day.
how to advance his political career. In the second season premiere, however, his actions become more extreme than we ever expected. The so-called suicide of Representative Peter Russo, who was really murdered by Underwood, raises the suspicions of journalist Zoe Barnes, who also happens to be Underwood's former lover. So what does Frank do? Well, we knew it wouldn't be good. We definitely didn't expect him to throw her in front of a train and kill her. This move really cemented Underwood's character and kept us on edge for the rest of the series.
I want to believe you, Francis.
Number 5, Violet's Fate, American Horror Story. There are plenty of creepy moments throughout American Horror Story, but one of the most upsetting took place in Murder House, the first series of the anthology. Violet and her family have moved into a house in LA with a dark past, and she soon begins seeing ghosts all around her. Halfway through the season, she's so troubled by this that she tries to kill herself, but is saved in the nick of time by Tate. Episodes later, however, Tate shows her her own body, revealing that she did succeed in killing herself, and had been living as a ghost without realizing it.
I tried to save you. I did.
Number 4, The Calm Before the Storm, The Walking Dead. This influential zombie show has seen many heartbreaking moments. Remember the Sophia as Walker reveal in season 2? But what's worse than seeing one innocent character lose their life? Revealing that 10 characters have been killed. This season 9 scene tortures viewers by slowly revealing each victim one by one. Some prominent, some whose names you may not even know, but all victims of a fierce war to come.
My mom was here. She's gone. I can't find her.
The saddest part? The Whisperers have left one survivor alive to tell the tale, expecting Sadiq to reveal to his friends how terrifying this new group of antagonists is.
You're supposed to die with them. I was ready to.
But instead, he explains how valiantly the Departed fought, in some cases for and with people they barely knew. If you didn't catch the feels here, you're as dead inside as a walker. Number 3, The Bent Neck Lady, The Haunting. It's okay. When The Haunting of Hill House debuted on Netflix in 2018, horror fans were engrossed by the intricate plotline. It's a story full of twists and turns, but no revelations were more upsetting than when we got the episode The Bent Neck Lady midway through the season. As a child, Nell sometimes saw a frightening apparition of a woman with a broken neck, and as an adult, she still wonders what it all means. Eventually, though, when she goes back to Hill House, she finds out that the ghost she's seeing is actually her own.
It's time to wake up, sweetheart.
Number 2, The Chicken Wasn't a Chicken After All, MASH.
It was driving me crazy. Every time it made a noise, I was sure the Chinese would hear it and find us.
MASH was a show that addressed the experience of war in a way that was often lighthearted and comedic. But in the TV movie that acted as the series finale, there was a moment so dark that it brought us right back to the real horrors of the time. It comes when the sardonic Hawkeye is telling a woman to quiet her chicken as they hide from an enemy patrol. She eventually had to smother it to death to stop it clucking.
Keep that damn chicken quiet.
It's eventually revealed, however, that it wasn't a chicken that the woman was holding, but a crying baby. It doesn't get much darker than that.
I just wanted to be quiet.
Number 1, The Red Wedding, Game of Thrones.
Oh!
Of course our number 1 pick had to go to what will likely go down as one of the most shocking moments in TV history. Sure, anyone who had read the novels already knew what was going to happen, but that didn't make it any less horrific. Game of Thrones established early on that it was willing to kill off major characters, like when Ned lost his head in season 1. But taking out 2 central characters in one fell swoop, and killing a pregnant woman and her unborn child was almost too much for viewers to bear. There are many shocking and upsetting twists that take place in the show, but this will always be the one we remember the most.
The Lannisters and their regards.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.
What's shocking is that he was using a sleep mask and a neck pillow to help him sleep during Randy Orton's time off from the WWE Flex-Equipment Disneyland with his family. Fans even photographed Randy Orton running a roller coaster with his family.
things, like personal comments that will give you the feels. After this, I'm gonna end it here. I'm gonna end it.
Dean also spends a lot of time in outdoors traveling with the WB. He's been secretly in line and walking through an airport on top of his phone. They had seen the spot Dean the most at many parts. This is probably because of all the driving he does from downtown. When out for WB, it was easier to recognize and other wrestlers. Ross Sherman was visiting a hospital with a procedure to fix an injury. While there, somebody stepped the photograph of Ross Sherman on his phone. Ron saw the person taking the photo and was not happy about it. Ron was also caught in public walking around in a very expensive suit, which is really different from what he wears for TV. Nikki Bella was seen using a wheelchair while out with her fiance, John Cena. After John Cena and Nikki Bella broke up, Nikki was spotted farting at a bar with a much younger man. Ever since Roman Reigns jumped over to SmackDown Live, there's been increasing speculation that a matchup between him and Kofi Kingston for the WWE title is imminent. So some may find it a bit strange to find out that Roman and Kofi are actually good friends behind the scenes. Roman Reigns has many male friends in WWE, but he has some female friends as well, including John Cena's ex-girlfriend, Bella. Nikki thinks that Roman is a devoted family man. Roman is also close to Dean Ambrose's wife, Renee Young. On TV, Roman Reigns is very serious and rarely cracks a smile. But behind the scenes, Roman Reigns is all smiles and loves to laugh and joke around, which is probably why one of his closest friends is R-Truth. Ever since Roman Reigns joined SmackDown Live, him and Truth have been seen hanging out as Roman seeks to fill the empty void of leaving his show brother Seth Rollins on Raw and losing his other show brother, Ambrose. It's widely known Alexa Bliss's best friend is past rival Nia Jax, but some may not know about her other close friend in the world of professional wrestling. One such friendship is with the Scottish psychopath Drew McIntyre. Les became friends
You wanna go on the
after
Xbox?
her best friend Nia Jax was injured,
Yeah.
and Alexa needed someone who could travel the world with. Luckily, Drew told Alexa that she could travel with him, and ever since then, the two have become very close friends. For season 7 of the reality show Total Divas, Alexa Bliss joined the cast. Sadly, her time on the show was short, but she did make a close friend while filming the show, Nikki Bella. Even though Alexa is 8 years younger than Nikki, they still grew close. But Alexa's strangest friendship is with someone who is near.
Sayonara, guys.